Welcome back to another episode of Week in Review. With just 10 days to CitizenCon and the expected 3.3 release, things are really heating up over at CIG. With the 3.3 Evocati build, CitizenCon tickets selling out, and an RTV on the Constellation Phoenix, let's get started. At number 7, we have the 3.3 Evocati update. This week sees the first patch of 3.3 sent out to Evocati testers. 2 builds were released, one containing OCS and one without. It's still far too early to tell on many of the features that are in the release, but we do have some indicators on the hot topic, OCS. Reports so far tell us that OCS is having performance improvements across the board, with some players going as far to report 4K 60fps. That said, we're still seeing stuttering, particularly in areas with high densities of players, so it's not the final solution to this problem, and we may see some changes and tweaks before the final release. It also has the side effect of reducing overall memory usage of the game, and while you'll still very much struggle with 8 gigs of RAM, those versed with 16 gig should see less complaints from Windows. As always, take this with a huge pinch of salt, as things are subject to change before the release. At number 6, we have the roadmap update. This week's roadmap brings us ever closer to the final 3.3 release, adding 19% to progress this week, the highest ever seen on 3.3. This takes us to a total 87% completion, with 2 weeks before CitizenCon. With just 12 tasks left to complete, Star Marine and Arena Commander Rentals sits at 57%, alongside the Constellation Phoenix. We also see performance optimizations at just 49%, though these are traditionally the last things to be done before the patch releases. Rest stops and ping and scanning were the only tasks to lose progress this week, with rest stops undoing 2 weeks of progress at 11% loss. Ping and scanning loses just 1% however. Progress this week has been very good, and hopefully the remaining tasks see good progress over the coming week. 3.3.5 tells a different story, gaining less than 1% progress towards the next release. Only 3 tasks saw any work this week, with no-fly zones gaining 11%, Lawville gaining 1%, and background spawning gaining 1% also. We know an OCS Evocati build went out this week, so hopefully we'll see some more progress as feedback comes in. Finally, as we push towards 3.4, we can take a brief look at its roadmap. It gains 32% progress this week, with 5 ships receiving work and pushing their way through the pipeline. But with many of the roadmap tasks not being fleshed out yet, and CIG's history of rearranging the roadmap, I'd expect to see much of that progress reversed once full attention is turned to 3.4. And that's all for the roadmap this week. It's going to be a tough couple of weeks over at CIG as they push towards the 3.3 deadline and start to move to 3.4, but I'm sure many of my fellow citizens are as excited as I am to see this happen. At number 5, we have lore content. This week's lore content follows Reese and Mila as they chase the Phantom across the verse. It's part 1 of this series, following 2 bounty hunters on their quest through underground networks and taverns to find a mysterious figure. It's a good read if you're into Star Citizen lore, and I'd encourage you to check it out. At number 4, we have Around the Verse. This week's ATV gives another round of updates and changes on the PU this week. To start off, scramble races see more work being completed, with lighting being tweaked and fixed, as previously it would be impossible to see some of the asteroids that were right in front of you. The final solution they used ended up being to use a small array of low intensity lights around the arena, adding just enough lights to allow players to see them. Rest stops also continue to be built out, with the procedural generation team refining the toolset, which we can now see being applied in the verse. Work also improves on the approach to the station for landing to make paths clearer and make it easier to land in a rest stop. Lawville continues to have its props built out, with clothing and items being built for use, and the ship team are working to further build out the power system, making it more reliable and to make it work as expected. Previously, reducing your power output would turn off components as defined in an XML file, which could lead to the multifunction displays being turned off first. Now there is a per item priority system, so players can define how they want things to shut down. CIG gave us a look at some of the mocap systems they use for characters in the verse. This week they've been recording generic NPC animations for use around stations, Hurston and Lawville. And that's all for ATV this week. As we push closer to 3.3, CIG are spending all of their time polishing and refining features for the update. At number 3, we have Reverse the Verse. This week's RTV gives us a slightly different format, looking at the Constellation Phoenix live in engine. 2 of the people who worked on the ship are here answering questions about the ship from the community. I'll cover the questions here with a little bit of footage, but if you'd like to watch the full thing, you can find it on the Star Citizen YouTube channel. The Phoenix art we see is now final, but there might be a couple of tweaks and changes before it actually launches into 3.3. The ship's 2 guest bedrooms provide plenty of space for guests, being modest but luxury feeling on the inside, perfect for high-profile clients. The main area features a bar, dining table and seating area in the foyer, providing plenty of space for those who want to relax with their guests. The bar even contains 6 bottles of Radagast, the whiskey given to Chairman's Club members. The piano has begun production and will optionally occupy the space that the conference table currently takes. You'll have the option of either of these and you can switch them out in the loadout manager. The main lobby also contains a fish tank, same as the original Phoenix. In the fish tank you can find a shipwreck of the original Constellation Phoenix at the bottom of the tank. The hot tub is currently being worked out, and while it doesn't work fully, the model is finished and the open and closing lid is functional. The master bedroom features a much larger double bed and a one-way mirrored window to allow you to see out but not allow anyone to see in. Components for this ship can be found in control panels across the lounge of the ship, next to the rear doors. The ship is now slightly bigger, gaining roughly 14% in width and 10% in length, but this doesn't feel like a lot of size difference when you actually look at the ship. As the systems have changed, the Phoenix can no longer accommodate a larger power plant. So, to accommodate for this, CIG have added a competition class power plant to this ship, being the correct size but putting out more power, etc. As of the 3.3 release, the ship won't have the point defense system, now called the remote turret system, but it will be scheduled for a later release. There was some confusion about the shielded cargo holds, as it turns out the Phoenix has a turret and not a shielded cargo hold. That cargo hold is on the Constellation Taurus, which doesn't have the turret. The Phoenix does have the best armor of the Constellation lineup, but it's not by much. The piano is available in the Phoenix right now, but it isn't currently implemented. It'll appear in the ship for Tier 0, but the full functionality won't be coming for a while yet. The hot tub won't have any water in it for 3.3, as CIG don't currently have the necessary tech to make this happen, and there's no current timeline for this to happen. And that's all for RTV this week. The Phoenix draws ever closer to release and is looking good so far. I'm sure many Phoenix owners are looking forward to getting their hands on it. At number 2, we have CIG events. CitizenCon draws ever closer with just 10 days to go. Tickets for the show are now completely sold out, but citizens can still check out the show live on the RSI website and pick up a digital goodies pack containing an in-game jacket, trophy and weapon, and access to purchase more CitizenCon merchandise. And finally, at number 1, we have the community overview. The community are poring over the patch notes and Evocati leaks this week, raring to get started on the next patch. Excitement builds for the 3.3 release, and many will be tuning into the live CitizenCon broadcast in 10 days time. And that's all from me for this week. Like, get subscribed, and let me know what you thought in the comment section down below.